and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ritu Singh, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Ratings agency Fitch downgrades U.S. government's credit rating from AAA to AA+. This is the first downgrade by a major firm in over a decade. Fitch flags growing debt burden and cites erosion of governance. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen criticizes the move, calling it arbitrary. Stock markets decline across the world after the Fitch downgrade. The sensex drops below 66,000. Nifty loses over 200 points, even after paring some losses in late trade. The rupee weakens to a 3-week low against the US dollar. Most Asian currencies depreciate against the greenback, even as the dollar index remains shaky after the downgrade. Tensions run high in Haryana after communal clashes in New district on Monday. At least 6 people killed as the flare-up reached Gurugram. Prohibitory orders have been imposed in some districts. The Supreme Court refuses to restrict VHP and Bajrang Dal protest rallies scheduled in Delhi NCR in the aftermath of the new violence, but directs administration to ensure there is no hate speech against a particular community or acts of violence. The court also directs for use of CCTV cameras in sensitive areas. Twitter's parent company moves Karnataka High Court, files an appeal against a single bench order dismissing its plea challenging the content blocking orders issued by the government. SpiceJet seeks shareholder approval for fund infusion and issuing equity to lesser Carlyle Aviation in conversion of dues. Also seeks approval for reappointment of Ajay Singh as managing director. Former United States President Donald Trump indicted for attempts to overturn results of the 2020 presidential elections. Federal authorities accused Trump of 4 charges. This is the 3rd time in 4 months that the former U.S. president has been criminally charged. Our top story this evening, then, ratings agency Fitch has downgraded the U.S. government's long-term credit rating from AAA to AA+. Now, this is the first time in over a decade that a major firm has downgraded the U.S. government. The last time that the U.S. government was downgraded by a rating agency was in 2011. CNBC's Arabile Gumed is here with more details on this.
Fitch stripping the United States of its AAA credit rating, downgrading America to AA+. Now, the agency cited what was a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the last 20 years, following the highly fraught bipartisan talks in the month of May, which eventually saw the debt ceiling raised until January 2025. Now, the agency had placed the U.S. on negative watch following the 11th hour deal. Fitch then also flagged a high debt burden, along with an expected mild recession that's set to happen in the 4th quarter. Now, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen hit out at the decision, describing it then as, quote, arbitrary and based on outdated data. Reaction to this move then was muted, though, from analysts in particular, with demand for treasuries actually expected to remain strong as a safe haven asset despite this downgrade. A note from Goldman Sachs even noted that the move from Fitch did not reflect any new information and should not have any major impact on markets.
I think from a longer-term perspective, people are going to begin to thinking that they've got to diversify their holdings first away from the U.S., and also into equities, because that's a way to protect them from any deterioration of the currency, the U.S. dollar, or for that matter, any other currency. So I would say this downgrade is going to have a lot of people thinking about diversification, not only away from the U.S. market, but generally speaking, away from their home markets.
Our view is that economic growth is winding down, but that sharp drop in inflation that we saw in the first half of the year may be losing a little momentum. Inflation may be moving, leveling out at a rate well above the Fed's 2% target rate.
What we can clearly see as we come in today in Asia is that the dollar is very stable. We've got a slight backup in the 10-year yield, but there's nothing of great significance there.
All right, let's take that forward. And Lata Venkatesh joins us now to decode the impact of this Fitch downgrade on the currency markets in Asia. Lata.
Oh, well, it has been a very sharp decline that we've seen in currencies. Korean won down over 1%, the ringgit 0.6%, Filipino peso 0.5%, 0.56%. The rupee again 0.5%, and the Indian rupee was 0.33, and by close of day it was almost 0.4 that it fell. Now here's the peculiarity, and this was repeated even previously in 2011 August 5, when the S&P had downgraded the US treasuries. You know, for most other treasuries, for instance, if there is an Indian downgrade or a Pakistan downgrade or Sri Lankan downgrade, that currency falls. In this case, that currency actually appreciated, and other currencies measured against the dollar fall. Now, why is this? Because people look at this event as uncertainty over the market. Let me go back to the 2011 August 5th downgrade by S&P. The dollar actually strengthened from 74 on August 5th to about 78 by September 30th of 2011. So one actually saw a flight to safety, as it were. People pulled away from emerging markets not knowing what this event might cause. And, you know, when you pull away, you naturally put it back into dollars, the mother country. And that resulted in the strengthening of the dollar. Now, there were two kinds of things which created the uncertainty. One set of people saying that, many funds, pension funds, etc., follow a best of three model. That if already S&P has downgraded the US dollar from AAA to AA+, if one more agency, Fitch, joins in, then the best of three has downgraded, so we have to move away from that asset. It was this worry that made for a lot of this sell-off. But what experts told us is that after the 2011 episode, funds have rewritten the rules to say that this downgrade won't apply to only one category, and that is US treasuries, and so there may not be a sell-off at all. So this looks like it could be knee-jerk. Now, the other set of people point out that, you know, with two agencies telling the US that your debt is too high, that your fiscal deficit is too irresponsible, and Fitch has used the word lack of governance, poor governance, there could be a moral pressure on the US not to go ballistic with its fiscal deficit. At the moment, there's tight monetary policy but loose fiscal policy in the US. It's possible that they will have to bring it down, and that might be negative for US economy, US stocks, and therefore for the global economy. But a large majority of experts I spoke to think that this is going to be just a passing phase. We are going to accept dollars for the software we sell. The Arab countries will accept only dollars for the crude we buy from them. And where will you put your dollars? You will put it in treasuries. So just a brief knee-jerk reaction.
Well, a brief knee-jerk reaction. We'll watch out how that plays out. Lava, thanks very much for joining in with that. Now, from the currency markets to the stock markets, where they declined across the world after this Fitch downgrade, DStreet followed suit despite bearing some losses in late trade. Nifty and sensex ended over 1% in the red. 43 out of 50 nifty stocks ended lower, with most stocks down 3% in trade. Banks underperformed the blue chips, and that index saw cuts of 1.5%. BSE companies erased a market cap of more than 3 lakh crore rupees in trade. Prashant Nair is joining in to round up the day's trading action.
Well, it looked pretty poor from the word go this morning and never really recovered. The trigger, of course, was the Fitch downgrade of US sovereign credit rating. Markets started on a weak note. We were down straight off the bat by about 75, 80 odd points. And then the plunge continued through the course of the day. Global markets, of course, were in the red as well. So it was a broad move lower. But from the lows, the market recovered. I mean, the Nifty intraday will tell you that a 100-point recovery from the day's low on the Nifty. The banks index recovered 300 points from the day's low. Mid-caps and small-caps. Mid-cap index down about 1 1/3. But the real star performer all of this while has been the small-cap index. That pulled back a little bit more, about 1.7, 1.8% in the red. This is largely profit-taking. The trigger, of course, is the Fitch news bit. But I think it's also reacting to what global markets have been doing. Now, cuts, large cap stocks coming through. Hero MotoCorp was lower for the second day running. Yesterday was a steep cut. Tata Steel, Tata Motors, Bajaj Finserv, iShares and NTPC were some of the ones which pulled back. In the broader markets, I mean, again, market breadth was pretty negative. Campus Footwear, sharp cut. Piramal Enterprises, Z was down sharply. A name like Suzlon sold off. BHEL, NHPC, JSPL, HBL Power. Sula was down some 8.5% on an excise demand. Max Financial Services, IIFL, Suryodaya Finance, Iron Exchange. Some of them have been really big winners, and pullbacks are natural. A trigger, of course, came through for markets. On the gaining side, you had, a bunch of names like IndiGo's Housing, second day running, by the way, strong gains. Star Cement was strong, Sanghi Industries, and there was Five Star, which actually ended up as well. I think one needs to watch global markets carefully because they will give us the immediate cue in terms of what happens next. If US goes into a bit of a tailspin, I think we will react. If there is stability, because the trend here has been up, we may be able to look through this near-term news-related volatility that we saw today. Back to you.
Prashant, thanks very much for taking us through all of that. Now, we have to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. Up next, tensions run high in Haryana after communal clashes in the New district on Monday. At least 6 people were killed as the flare-up reached Gurgaon. We'll get you details on that after this short break.
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Well, IndiGo's Aviation has just reported strong numbers in the first quarter, beating street estimates across all parameters. The company's revenue rose by nearly 30% on a year-on-year basis. For more numbers, joining us now is Sonia Shenoy with all of the fine print. Sonia, take us through the numbers. How do they look?
Well, the numbers look very good for IndiGo's Aviation, Ritu, and this is the highest ever quarterly revenues that the company has posted, which is above street estimates. It's a growth of almost 30% that we've seen on the top line for IndiGo's Aviation. This is also the highest ever quarterly net profits that the company has posted, to the tune of 3,090 crores. This compares to a loss of 1,064 crores same time last year. Now, the fuel costs for IndiGo's Aviation have fallen quarter on quarter by about 8%, and that has aided the numbers sequentially. But even if you look at, what has happened overall, the management does say that it's been a strong operational performance. The execution of their new strategy and favorable market conditions have aided the numbers this time around. The capacity for the company has gone up by almost 19% to 32.7 billion. The passenger numbers have grown a robust 30.1%, coming in at 26.2 million for this particular quarter. The yields, though, have declined, but the load factors have improved by 9 percentage points to 88.6%. So all in all, a very good set of numbers coming in. And, even if you look at the internals, the average seat kilometer, the revenue per kilometer, the load factors have all improved substantially year on year. Average seat kilometer is up 19% and RPK is up about 32%. So I expect the stock to open in the green tomorrow. Very good set of numbers coming in from IndiGo. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Sonia, very much for breaking that down for us. Now, moving on to the other big national story that we're tracking for you today. Communal tensions run high in Haryana after clashes broke out between communities in the new district on Monday during a religious procession. 6 people have lost their lives so far. The flare-up has reached Gurgaon as well. Select shops were vandalized and set on fire by a mob in Badshahpur. The Supreme Court refused to restrict VHP and Bajrang Dal protest rallies scheduled in Delhi NCR in the aftermath of the new violence. The court, however, directed administrations to ensure that there is no hate speech against a particular community or acts of violence. My colleague Shivani Bajaj filed this report from Badshahpur.
We are standing in Gurugram's Badshahpur area where violence broke out yesterday, 2 days after violence broke out in Haryana's Nuh. And I'm standing here in front of the 2 shops that were totally set ablaze by a mob yesterday. As you can see, the entire 2 shops have been gutted and turned to ashes. Nearly 14 shops were vandalized in the main market of Badshahpur yesterday. And the locals here say that a mob of more than 100 men targeted and vandalized shops in the area and set many of the shops ablaze. The mobs targeted shops mostly selling biryani and chicken is what we are getting to understand from the locals here. And in the nearby sector of Sector 57 of Gurugram, there was also an attack on a mosque recently where one person has lost his life. Late last night, there was also a fire that broke out in a cycle shop in Sector 70, but the police has not given any information about how the fire broke out, but they've just said that the fire was under control. The government has imposed 144 of CRPC to deal with the violence here, and educational institutions remain shut yesterday.
20 कंपनीज पैरामिलिट्री की हमने बुलाई हैं, जिसमें से 14 कंपनीज नूह जिले में, 3 कंपनीज पलवल में, 2 गुरुग्राम में और 1 फरीदाबाद में। 4 कंपनीज की डिमांड आज हमने और की है बाहर के स्थानों के लिए। अभी तक 116 लोगों को अरेस्ट किया गया है और 90 इसके अतिरिक्त और डिटेन किए गए हैं। पूछताछ करने के बाद उनके खिलाफ भी कार्रवाई जो बनेगी वो सब की जाएगी।
जो आयोजक थे कल की यात्रा के, उनने भीड़ एस्टिमेशन का प्रॉपर ब्यौरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्रशासन को नहीं दिया। कहीं न कहीं उसकी कमी के कारण ये दुर्घटना कल हुई। हमारे प्रदेश में आज तक के इतिहास में ऐसी घटना नहीं हुई। जिन लोगों ने इस घटना को आगे उकसाकर बढ़ने का काम किया, उनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई।
There were 3 incidents yesterday. Those were reported to us. FIRs have been registered in 3 incidences, and we are trying to identify the miscreants on the basis of available evidences, and after identification they will be arrested soon. All 3 incidences, they were reported to be of arson cases, so we have registered the FIR under reviewed sections of the Indian Penal Code.
Most of the shops in this Badshahpur village and the market are shut today. Locals are in fear after they witnessed multiple cases of arson in front of their eyes. We spoke to multiple people here, including shop owners and laborers, who told us how a mob of more than 100 men marched towards them and vandalized multiple shops. The fear is so much that no one wants to come on camera fearing an attack on them. We spoke to young men who work as laborers and as carpenters here, and you can see some of them are sitting over there. And they said that most of them have been asked by the landlords to vacate their houses and move back to their villages for some time, fearing violence. We spoke to 4 such men who said that they couldn't sleep through the night after they witnessed the targeted arson yesterday. They said that many other laborers who were working with them had booked taxis and cabs on exorbitant rates of 8,000 to 10,000 rupees in the morning to flee back to their villages in Uttar Pradesh.
All right, that's the latest as far as the new violence-related situation is concerned. On that note, we're going to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. Stay with CNBC-TV18. The news and updates will continue on the other side.